What's up, everybody? We are back after a long off season, and we're here with some NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for tonight's single game showdown slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions, opening night. So glad football is back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. And what we do in these videos every Monday, every Thursday, we come on here, we release this video on YouTube, maybe 8 to 15 minutes long, just give you a high level overview of the slate. What are the injuries that will impact your lineups? What are some low risk? What are some high risk lineup construction tips? Who are the most popular options and lineup types going to be? And who are some low owned differentiators to help you win those biggest contests on DraftKings and FanDuel? So let's get started. If you didn't play preseason DFS with us, it's okay. We'll excuse it. If you haven't done many fantasy drafts, let's catch you up to speed. Just really quickly, what has changed since last season for these two teams? So we'll start with Detroit, and mostly the changes we have to discuss are the rookies. So Jahmyr Gibbs drafted in the first round, prolific pass catcher, expected to be a big part of this offense. Expected to be what they thought DeAndre Swift would be in years past. They used him early. He's been a second, third round pick in fantasy drafts this offseason. So we expect a big role out of the gate for Jahmyr Gibbs. They brought in David Montgomery to replace Jamal Williams, who's off to New Orleans. So they'll have a 1-2 backfield punch, kind of similar to what we saw in years past with Swift, with Jamal Williams. Gibbs perhaps a little more dynamic, but again, both these guys should get work. Again, for fantasy drafts, Gibbs was going in the third round or so, Montgomery seventh or eighth round, depending on where and when you've been drafting. At receiver, DJ Chark is out. Marvin Jones is back in. If you remember, Marvin Jones played for Detroit a couple years ago, was in Jacksonville. He is back, so that's a one-for-one swap there. And then at tight end, they drafted Sam Laporta. And as most reports indicate, he should be running with the starters. A rarity for tight ends, yes, but a great pass catcher. And he probably won't play every snap. He's not going to be a Travis Kelsey guy right out of the gate. But again, 12th round draft pick or so in best ball leagues. So fantasy managers believe that he'll have a pretty decent season in his first year at tight end. So Laporta in there, Brock Wright, James Mitchell will be the other guys at tight end for Detroit. Remember, they traded TJ Hawkinson before the deadline last year, so now it's just those three guys in the tight end room. On Kansas City side, the biggest change is the wide receiver room. And let's see if this works. Nope, we can't do a wide receiver search on DraftKings. It's not like the model or our lineup builder. But if we sort by position, they have 7 guys that are likely going to be active tonight. So Kadarius Toney, remember him from last year, coming over in the trade from the Giants. MVS is still there. Sky Moore has been elevated to a starting role with Juju Smith-Schuster no longer in Kansas City. They drafted Rashee Rice this year. They brought in Richie James from the Giants. And then Justin Ross, who missed all of last year, undrafted free agent, prolific receiver in college at Clemson, missed last year with the injury. He's been in the mix as well. And then Justin Watson, who's been on the team for a couple of years now, knows the system and has got some run with the starters in preseason. So 7 guys that are going to mix and match here. No true alpha like Tyreek Hill a couple of years ago. Maybe one of these guys will turn into it, but that remains to be seen. So that's really what you've missed if you've just been under a rock for the past 6 months in the NFL. But don't worry, we got you. So now let's look ahead to tonight's slate. And the main injury we have to discuss, it's the only thing we can talk about in this section, is Travis Kelsey. Let's sort by salary here. And there he is, Travis Kelsey. So, hyperextended his knee in Tuesday's practice. All kinds of reports. Ligaments are intact. That's great news for anyone who has him in season long or is a fan of the Chiefs or a fan of Travis Kelsey. Swelling immediately. Tested it yesterday. Let the swelling go down some. Apparently, they're putting him through a pregame workout this morning to test it out. And then, if all that goes well, they'll put him through a pregame workout actually before the game tonight. Here's how I see it. Here's how we see it. Most medical professionals who do this on Twitter, put out YouTube videos, they believe that it's too quick of a turnaround, 48 hours, with swelling from a bone bruise in the knee, which is how it's been diagnosed as of now, for Kelsey to play and play effectively. Most football tough guys who think you can play through anything thinks he's going to play tonight, including his brother, Jason Kelsey, who said, I think yesterday, that he thinks Travis can play because he went through a similar injury. So, to me, when we have this dichotomy of football guys, tough shit, tough guys, football shit, whatever you want to call it, he's going to play. medical professionals say he probably shouldn't play. In an important game, Kelsey would be out there. Playoffs, uh, division on the line, Super Bowl, things like that. Kelsey would be out there. First game of the season with a long week of recovery after 10 days until their next game after this. Feels to me like the medical staff will hold him out. But again, we truly don't know. He's questionable. So we'll go through this video if he's going to be out, but if he's going to be in, we'll talk about that as well. So as of now, we are projecting him out. Our ownership and our occupy model has him projected out. But again, that could change. It will be flexible, and it'll update if we do get news that he is indeed playing. Now, let's turn our attention to low-risk contests, 50-50s, double-ups, head-to-heads. What are people going to do in these contests? How can we exploit what other people will do? How can we just get into the top half of those contests to double up our money? Now, if you've read our showdown guide, which is on occupyfantasy.com, we go through lots of historical data on how to build lineups for a showdown contest. We generally say that there are two or three ways you want to build showdown lineups for low-risk contests. One, you want to try to maximize inefficiencies. Which players are priced too cheaply, get them into your lineup based on their projected volume. Or if pricing is pretty efficient, we want to try to lock up all the scoring in the game. So playing both quarterbacks, playing both running backs if there are clear running backs to target, following up with kickers, defenses, any obvious values. So now, the lock up all the scoring method is pretty tough in this game because we have two running backs on Detroit side, both Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, who are going to get a lot of touches, a lot of targets. And then we really don't know for sure how the Kansas City backfield is going to play out. Isaiah Pacheco is back, expected to lead the way. CEH is still there. Jerick McKinnon, obviously the pass catching back, is there as well. So not very clear. We can't lock up the scoring by playing the running backs. And because it's the first slate of the season, generally we have some softer pricing. DraftKings, FanDuel want the casual players to come in, have a little bit more success, or a little bit easier time building lineups. Don't make it super tough to build a lineup that they like. So we generally see guys that are a little bit cheaper than they usually are. So if Kelsey is out, the first guy you're going to want to put into your lineup probably is Noah Gray. 2,400 should be the starting tight end. He would be the obvious underpriced value in this lineup. And then we want to play both quarterbacks usually. If you have to choose between Jared Goff and not playing Jared Goff, then we have a Cooper Kupp type situation here. If you've played in years past, you know what Cooper Kupp has done for the Rams. If you had to choose between Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford in the lineup, you're going to pick Cooper Kupp because of his insane volume. That's basically what we have here with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just incredible target totals when he's been on the field and been healthy. And while he's a little more expensive, yes, if you had to choose between the two, we would choose Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's go to Flex and actually put him in the lineup. You do want one of Detroit's backs. Gibbs, because of his pass catching ability on DraftKings, probably gives him the edge here. That leaves us 5,400 per player. The other obvious value that we're going to play, that most of the field will play, is Sky Moore, 4,800. Expected to be the wide receiver one this year. Again, has been the highest drafted receiver in fantasy drafts. Typically, ADP is a better indicator of early season success than any stats or any other predictions. So Sky Moore gets the edge here. Should be pretty popular. We're projecting over 30% owned overall in the largest field contest on DraftKings, which means he should be even more popular in smaller contests and in cash games particularly. So at 4,800, Sky Moore, he's a guy that you'll want to get into your lineup. That leaves 6,100. That's a kind of a dead spot here. So we have to rearrange just a little bit. Maybe if we go down the golf, let's see what this does. 9,400. That leaves us 6,900. We could play Pacheco or Montgomery. So that's a way we could go with this here. I think there's a lot of this is what the field will do. So it's very interesting. Typically, we see kickers and defenses in showdown contests, but because of the mispricings tonight and some of the softer pricing, they're not as clear of plays as they will be throughout the next 18 weeks or so. Last year, 75% of winning smaller lineups, cash games, small field GPPs, had some sort of kicker or defense. Don't know if that'll necessarily be the case tonight. Not saying they're bad plays, especially Bucker on the Chiefs side as they're favored, but not a necessity that you have to get into your lineups tonight. So let's talk about high risk now, what everyone's here for. The big bucks. 1 million to first on DraftKings, 500K to first on FanDuel. Actually, before we do that, let's go over to FanDuel. Let's talk about low risk over there. So because there's no salary multiplier, get the highest projected player in your MVP spot. That's Patrick Mahomes. Here you'll have to choose between Amon-Ra and Goff for sure. And again, Amon-Ra's $2,000 cheaper, and he's basically Cooper Kupp when he's healthy. and not seeing a body specialist. So Amon-Ra's the guy here. Noah Gray, again, helps you fit in everyone. He is super cheap, 5,500. He'll be popular. That leaves you 11.5. You can fit in whichever Detroit back you like. Gibbs is only 11K here, so that's super nice. If we put in Gibbs, what does that leave us? 11.5. We could play the other Chiefs back, lead back, Pacheco. We could play around with it here, but I think these three guys are the core to play low risk FanDuel contest tonight. All right, back to DraftKings and back to high risk contests. Actually, let's look at this is our live NFL odds on OccupyFantasy.com. Free, shows live odds for the four major sports. And we see that Kansas City is a 4.5 point favorite, total 53 points as of right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. So let's go back to DraftKings. So by seeing that, by seeing the Chiefs as the favorite team, one would think, if you'd played Showdown contest before, that most of the lineups that we'll see tonight will be Kansas City heavy. 5 Chiefs, 1 Detroit Lion. 4 Chiefs, 2 Detroit Lions. However, that's not necessarily the case because of the receiving targets should be pretty fractured for Kansas City. A lot of people and a lot of the ownership are going to go to the safer, more projectable Detroit guys, and rightfully so, right? Especially for low risk contests. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery. That makes a ton of sense. Sure. When you can't really project outside of Sky Moore, who's going to get the most targets, and Sky Moore might not even get the most targets, right? Like, we could be very wrong about that. And you have Kadarius Toney at 7K, who's much more expensive than Sky Moore, and all the other guys, we don't even know how much they're going to play. The field is going to feel more comfortable playing at least 3 Lions in their lineups. We might even see some 2-4 type lineups where we have a Chiefs captain, another Chiefs player in the flex, and then 4 Detroit Lions. So here's how you can get different, just from a lineup construction standpoint. Build Chiefs onslaughts, 4+ Chiefs in the same lineup, 5+ Chiefs in the same lineup. Not many people are going to do that, and if they're favored and Mahomes goes off, those lineups are very likely to succeed. So that's way number 1 to get different in high risk contests. Number 2 are taking advantage of those previously mentioned pricing inefficiencies and ownership at running back and receiver for the Chiefs. So if we look at running back for the Chiefs, we have Pacheco, 6,800, should be the most popular. Jarrett McKinnon, 5,600, kind of in a weird range. We think he'll go overlooked at 5,600. And then CEH, 3,600, who took most of the first team snaps in preseason games while Pacheco was sidelined with an injury. So while we expect the pecking order to be Pacheco, McKinnon on pass down, CEH the third back, maybe spell him some, all of this could change, right? McKinnon could easily outscore Pacheco. They design plays for him around the goal line, could easily get there in the passing game, and CEH could play more than anyone expects. So number 1 for this ownership positional differentiation is playing one of McKinnon or CEH instead of Isaiah Pacheco. That's easy. The even easier way is to take a stand and play some of these lower owned Chiefs receivers. So at wide receiver, we have Kadarius Toney because he's 7K and probably won't play all the snaps. He'll probably play a limited 10 to 25 snaps, but will be targeted heavily when he's on the field. Under 20% at 7K. Valdez-Scantling, boomer bust, deep threat, 5,400. Why pay for Scantling when you can play for the safer Sky Moore at 4,800, $600 cheaper? Easy, okay? Rashee Rice looked great in preseason as a rookie. Maybe they give him more snaps. He's 4,600, $200 cheaper than Sky Moore. Projected way less, but maybe he outscores him, right? It's not like Sky Moore has been this target hog when he has been on the field in the past year for Kansas City. Richie James, a fantasy point per snap machine when he's been on the field for the Giants and San Francisco, has won multiple people 500K plus when he's been in winning showdown lineups. Richie James, probably one of the better overall receivers that they even have, and he's only 2K and going to be less than 10% owned. Justin Ross, 1K, less than 5% owned. Justin Watson, $200, less than 5% owned. Watson, again, running with the starters, $200 on DraftKings. Watson, James, Rice are going to mix in behind Moore and Valdez-Scantling, along with Kadarius Toney. They're going to play, and they're going to be less than 10% owned for the most part. To me, that is just the absolute easiest way to get different in high-risk contests tonight, or even smaller GPPs. You play one of these guys sub 10% instead of Sky Moore. It is an absolute no-brainer to me, especially when we don't have really any information. The field is acting like we have all the information. That's how you win in high-risk contests in any sport, but especially Week 1 NFL Showdown. The other thing, no one's going to play the defenses. We have the defenses under 10%. The Lions will probably be under 5% owned. In a high-scoring game in Week 1, both these teams are pass-heavy. Their pass rate over expectation is higher than league average, at least it was last year. And when we have that, That's a recipe for defensive scoring. Yes, these are two good offenses. All it takes is one mistake for $3,800 Chiefs, $3,200 Lions, 10 plus points on a pick six, fumble six, a sack, scoop, and score, 10 plus points. They're in the optimal lineup at less than 10%. You have to like that as well. I mean, lots of low owned plays that we like tonight, despite the field congregating on just a handful of guys. And finally, as a result, because pricing is pretty soft, do not be afraid to leave salary tonight. That applies to both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings. Especially in the larger contests, that's one way to get different. But if you can upgrade, $1,500, $2,500, that may seem pretty extreme. But on a slate where the Chiefs receivers are pretty rotational and the secondary and tertiary options in the Detroit passing game are pretty cheap, there are ways that they outscore guys priced $2,000 above them, $3,000 above them. So do not be afraid to leave salary tonight as long as you're doing it with a purpose. I think that covers it. Let's go over to FanDuel just really quickly. We have Mahomes projected for more than 50% projected ownership tonight. I like playing if I had to go the route of playing 100% Mahomes MVP in my high risk lineups or 0%, I think I would lead 100% tonight because of all those receiving options that we have that are lower owned. If it was a typical slate and all of his receiving options are appropriately priced, we know their roles, we can't really get that different. I would be more inclined to play 0% and try to get different with Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, Jared Goff even. But tonight, I think because you can play, I don't know, Justin Watson at 6K. You can play Rashee Rice at 7K. You can play, honestly, you can even play Valdez-Scantling at 10K because no one's playing Valdez-Scantling at 10K. Easy ways to get different with correlation with Mahomes MVP. So I think the way to go is just to jam Mahomes, get different, play at least one guy under 15, 10% in your flex spots. And it seems pretty straightforward on FanDuel for high-risk content tonight. So that'll do it for this video. We appreciate you listening as always. If you like what you've seen, make sure you are subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. Doing these videos every Monday and every Thursday for Showdown slates. We'll have main slate videos on Friday, a live Q&A on Saturdays, plus some other Battle Royale and Underdog, other types of NFL videos throughout the week. Subscribing on here is the best way to get notified when we go live or upload any videos. Give us a thumbs up. Let's try to get to 100 thumbs up today. That lets us know that you like these videos. Lets me know that I should continue to put in the effort, put these videos out every Monday and Thursday. So give us a thumbs up if you like it. Let's get to 100 plus. And if you have any questions, comment on the video. We will always monitor the channel throughout the day and answer your questions about the slate. Drop as many questions as you want. We'll love to answer them. Discord is the best way to get in touch with us, get extended answers, chat with other members of the Occupy Fantasy community, occupyfantasy.com/Discord. That link is in the description below. Our daily plug will be out a little later today because of the Travis Kelce news. I would say 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern. That is our in-depth rundown of the slate. So if you like this video, you'll love the daily plug. It talks about every single player, ranks every player for different contest types, how to build lineups for every single contest on FanDuel and DraftKings, and then some overall slate notes, goes in more in-depth on some stats that I didn't cover in this video. Our writer Bismo does a great job on that. So make sure you go check that out after this video is posted. Occupy model is up and running, ranks every player FanDuel and DraftKings with projected ownership. And our lineup builder was up yesterday. It's up today, of course. Allows you to build up to 300 lineups, FanDuel and DraftKings, using as many custom rules as you like, using all the showdown rules that you can read in our showdown guide. It's one of the best ways to build showdown lineups. So, Brian Jester for Occupy Fantasy. The grind is back. You'll see me here every Monday and Thursday for the next at least 18 weeks. Embrace it, and good luck tonight.